Spring cleaning is the perfect chance to hit the reset button on your grooming routine. Manscaped's Beard and Balls bundle has you covered from cheek to cheeks, clearing out the overgrowth winter left behind, because nothing says fresh start like a sharp beard and, more importantly, a properly landscaped lawn. Join over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and use offer code SKILLUP for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com/skillup. Gamers, guess where I am? No, that is not Photoshop. No, that is not AI, because if it were, it would probably look like a Studio Ghibli thing. No, this is a real picture of me standing next to my hero, my crush, my absolute GOAT, Hideo Kojima himself. I know, I am as surprised as you are. No word of a lie, this photo right here is a bucket list item for me. Literally one less thing I need to worry about before I shuffle off this mortal coil. Unbelievably excited to be over here previewing Death Stranding 2 on the beach and bursting at the seams to talk about it, but unfortunately that'll have to wait until May 8th when the embargo breaks. In the meantime, do hit me down below with your burning Death Stranding 2 questions. I've got a Q&A coming up with Kojima the day after this video goes live, so I'll try to get as many of your questions answered as I can. My burning question: which new product placement will replace that Drive with Norman Reedus shoutouts? People have a right to know, Kojima-san. Anyway, enough about me. Hey, did you guys hear that Todd Howard put out a new game this week? And by new, I mean 2 decades old, but hey, we're not complaining. That's right, the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered is here. Jeff Grubb has been saying for weeks now that it would be any day now, and just when we were all about to call the boy who cried wolf, Bethesda announced and released the game in the same breath via an official live stream just yesterday. So to be clear, this is technically a remaster, but I think the remaster label kind of undersells just how much work has gone into this. The presentation is one thing. This is not your average texture and lighting update like most remasters, but a complete graphical reconstruction courtesy of Unreal Engine 5. And that visual uplift is extremely noticeable. I mean, the environments and lighting look incredible. Facial animations are significantly better than any other Bethesda game, though that's not exactly a very high bar to clear. Character models look, well, kind of cursed in some cases if I'm honest, but at least in terms of raw fidelity, they're a big step up. But important to note that this is all layered on top of the original Oblivion game engine, which still handles the gameplay side of things. And I'm not a game developer, so I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't even know that was a thing you could do. That means that for the most part, most of the jank of the original game remains intact. And to be honest, we wouldn't have it any other way. I feel like there's a statute of limitations on bug fixes. Like if your game came out in the last 5 years, then yeah, you gotta fix it. But if it's 20 years old and buggy as hell and people are still playing it, then I feel like those bugs have earned squatters' rights. As one user review on Steam put it, quote, "Finished the intro and left the sewers. Immediately saw a mud crab and cast a fireball at it, at which point its dead body slowly rose to the heavens. I then went to the closest inn and saw a lady with missing legs try to sit down at the bar, instantly crashing the game. Oblivion is back," end quote. Yes, indeed, sir. Yes, it is. That's not to say that the underlying game is completely unchanged, mind you. They have touched up the leveling system, which is now a mix between Oblivion and Skyrim. Combat has had some improvements with all new audio, VFX, and hit reactions to make it feel a little weightier, and new dialogue's been recorded to make each of the races actually sound distinct from one another. Did they remove that dialogue of the voice actress asking to do a do-over? I sure hope not, because if you're going to keep any jank in the game, it's got to be that.
I heard that thieves broke into the Arcane University, the Imperial Legion compound, and the temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again.
Overall, it looks like they've tried to go for a happy medium here, adding some light updates where needed while retaining much of the spirit of the original game. Personally, I'm a little surprised to see that Bethesda have put this out for $50 US, where many people would have expected a full box price for this given the amount of work that's gone into it, and the fact that it includes all of the DLC for the original game. Sure, the original is 20 years old now, absolutely, but this is basically the level of Blue Point's Demon's Souls remake, which was and still is $70 US. Putting it at that lower price tag is certainly a much appreciated move on Bethesda's part given the price hike climate now. That said, there is a deluxe edition that bumps this up to $60 US, which includes some new quests, some weapons, and horse armor? God damn it, Todd, you've done it to us again! Obviously, it's a little early to tell how this remaster has landed for people, but it does look to be tracking pretty well so far. Less than an hour after its release, it became the global top-selling game on Steam, with a peak concurrent player count of 180,000 players, and that number is still rapidly climbing. That's just on Steam, mind you. Note that this also releases for PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, and it's also available right now on Game Pass, which is where I imagine most people are playing it. Steam reviews place this one at 82% very positive at the time of writing, so it seems like audiences are happy for the most part, though I'm sure part of that's to do with the sheer hype of returning to Cyrodiil after all this time. More negative reviews do cite semi-frequent crashes, poor performance on even high-end hardware, and an anti-cheat end-user license agreement that prevents the use of mods. That's right, Bethesda have made clear that mods will not be officially supported for the Oblivion Remaster. That is definitely a strange stance to take given the series has had a long history of official mod support, one that has been incredibly beneficial to the longevity of their games. Worry not though, at the time of writing, there were already over 100 mods available for the Oblivion Remaster, and that number is going up every single minute. Todd's reluctance be damned, the people will put Skibidi Toilet into Oblivion, whether he likes it or not. Turning to other news now, Bungie's new extraction shooter Marathon has also been the talk of the town over the last few weeks, with many less than blown away by what they saw at the gameplay reveal and preview coverage. Looking at the like-to-dislike ratio on the official gameplay reveal trailer paints a fairly grim picture of how that reveal went, but despite that, there are still plenty of people who are desperate to get their hands on this to judge it for themselves, and I think it's in Bungie's best interest to help make that happen, given their stated commitment to want to build the game alongside their community. During that reveal, Bungie did announce that a closed alpha test would be going live, and that actually began as of today. Initially though, on top of the fact that this is a closed alpha with limited access, and it's only available to those in the United States, there was also a hard NDA imposed on those participating, meaning that even the people that did get in wouldn't be able to share their footage or hands-on thoughts. That level of secrecy didn't exactly instill confidence in those hopeful for Marathon, but the good news is that as of last week, Bungie have announced that they would be lifting the NDA on the closed alpha test. On the subreddit, the official Marathon account had this to say, quote, "As developers, we believe community feedback and dialogue is essential to make the best versions of Marathon. Up until now, this feedback has come from closed playtest sessions. In the spirit of building toward the future, we've decided to remove the NDA from our closed alpha test. Everyone can share their thoughts, feedback, and footage, including streaming starting on April 23rd, end quote. They then went on to outline how they define an alpha so as to set the right expectations, making clear that many of Marathon's systems are not final and are of course subject to change. I think this is a great move. The amount of discourse Marathon is stirring up is impossible to ignore, and Bungie surely realized that holding their cards so close to the chest probably isn't the right move at the moment, not to mention the fact that discussion and footage from the closed alpha test would have leaked anyway, so at least this way they can get ahead of all that. With the NDA lifted, I suspect Bungie are looking to gather feedback not just from those participating in the closed alpha themselves, but also better gauge player perception after they've gotten the chance to see the game's current state from other people playing it. As I said in my hands-on preview, there's plenty of stuff I liked about Marathon, other things I didn't like so much. At the end of the day though, I am rooting for Bungie to succeed. I mean, Destiny started out really rough, but over time, by listening to their community, they managed to evolve it into something truly great. I'm very hopeful that they'll be able to do the same thing here with Marathon, and I hope they use this time before launch to really get this thing humming, because the pressure is definitely on in more ways than one. Hey, speaking of Destiny, by the way, it looks like things aren't slowing down despite everything going on with Marathon. Many feared that Bungie would be quietly winding down Destiny after they shifted to a seasonal episodic content model with no indication that a full expansion was on the way in the future. Well, Bungie are clearly trying to reset the narrative here, because this week they announced that very soon they'd be revealing Destiny's next year of content via a live stream on May 6th, which does include an actual expansion. As stated in their follow-up blog post, quote, "Developers will discuss the first expansion, the Edge of Fate, and much more during the event," end quote. I know one question everyone has here is, what exactly do you mean by the term expansion now, Bungie? Back in the day, that meant a narrative campaign, new game mode, tons of new gear, a legitimate expansion of the game in terms of both content and variety of content. The rumor mill suggests that Bungie will still be calling future expansion drops expansion, though they are likely to be significantly smaller in scale, a function of the significantly reduced dev team now working on Destiny after multiple rounds of layoffs have seen the team substantially downsized. I don't know how it's going to land. All I know is I'm glad Bungie are sticking with it. I personally have not touched Destiny since the final shape and the news of those layoffs dropped, and while I can't see myself going back to Destiny in the same way I used to play it, I'd love to check in during the major content drops to hang out with old clan mates, check in on my vault, and get updated on what new hacks cheaters are using these days in trials. Always nice to see that. That's not the only game receiving a chunky update though. Last week, Larian released the final update for Baldur's Gate 3, which added a bunch of awesome new stuff like crossplay between PC and consoles, a photo mode, and 12 new subclasses. My favorite being the new Drunken Master Monk that has you chugging all the unused alcohol you find, sharing your drunkenness with all your enemies, and then sobering them up to inflict psychic damage. Love to see it. Believe it or not, this is actually the 8th major update the game's received since launch, with previous updates adding things like additional endings and difficulty modes, in-game mod support for both PC and console, and most importantly, you can now get the spiciest romance in the game with Minthara without committing to an evil playthrough. Very jealous of those who somehow haven't played this yet, as they now get to experience an even better version of a game that was already an 11 out of 10 masterpiece. With Baldur's Gate 3 now laid to rest, the studio has confirmed that they are now full steam ahead on their next title. Confirmation of that fact came from Larian's armor-clad CEO Sven Vinke, who took to Twitter following the recent patch saying, quote, "Feeling good today about where we are with Baldur's Gate 3. Patch 8 got a lot of people playing again, took a lot of development effort, but I'm happy we did it. With mod support thriving, I think the game will now continue to do well for quite some time. It gives us room to focus on making our next big thing as good as we can, and that focus is more than welcome. We've got big shoes to fill," end quote. Congratulations to Larian for their monumental achievement with Baldur's Gate 3. Cannot wait to see what they're cooking up next. A quick lightning round to finish off, and we'll start with even more Bethesda news. Did you know that you can now buy a piece of the Elder Scrolls Online servers? It's true. Kotaku reports that in celebration of the MMO's 10th anniversary, which actually happened last year, mind you, Bethesda is selling exactly 2,000 sticks of RAM that were once used in the game's original servers but have since been retired. For the price of $110 US, it'll be sent to you framed alongside a decorative golden plaque and certificate of authenticity. First horse armor, now retired server hardware. Bethesda always at the absolute cutting edge of monetization. Xbox has just rolled out an update allowing Game Pass Ultimate members to stream select games they own to their Xbox Series and Xbox One consoles, meaning they can play them on their console, but they're actually playing through the cloud. You may be wondering what the point of that is, given that you typically want to, play a game locally rather than stream it. But don't forget, this does mean that you don't actually have to have the game installed on your device, which could be super helpful if you have like an Xbox Series S with really limited hard drive space, or you just have Call of Duty installed, which is like 400 gigabytes, and so you're out of space. Konami are doing one hell of a job rebuilding their reputation with gamers, and it seems like Japanese game developers are also taking note. According to Automaton, a survey was conducted recently among Japanese university students looking to enter the industry next year about what their preferred employer would be, and the results were quite interesting. They surveyed over 25,000 liberal arts students, and as far as video games companies go, Konami jumped from 31st in the ranking last year to 10th place this year. Konami was just beaten out by Bandai Namco, which was ranked number 9th. Easy to see why, given the resounding success of FromSoft's games. Meanwhile, Sega sits at 13th place and Nintendo at 17th, which is actually quite surprising, I think. Curious to see if they'll place higher next year after the release of the Switch 2. One cool sales milestone to finish things off, the 2022 release of Dwarf Fortress, the staggeringly deep construction and management sim that used to be made up of literal ASCII art before its Steam release brought actual graphics. That just surpassed 1 million copies on Steam. A very nice result for a very niche but remarkably ambitious title. It's one of those games that sits at the very top of my pile of shame, but with sales like that and a 95% overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, I guess I'll have to see what all the fuss is about at some point. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, in Japan this past weekend, there was Star Wars Celebration, which is basically like a giant Star Wars fan fest that also has a whole bunch of Star Wars related announcements. One of the things they announced there was Star Wars XCOM. It's not actually called that, mind you. It's called Star Wars Zero Company, and it's a turn-based tactics game that sees you in command of a ragtag outfit sent to save the galaxy from a looming threat. The similarities to XCOM are no coincidence, mind you, as this is from BitReactor, who are a co-development studio who, according to their website, did work on XCOM back in the day. This one, though, is being developed in collaboration with Respawn Entertainment and Lucasfilm Games, so it looks like it's in good hands. Bit of a long wait for this one, though. It's coming to all platforms bar Switch sometime in 2026. The other announcement to come out of the Star Wars Celebration this year was the next DLC for Star Wars Outlaws, titled A Pirate's Fortune. This is the game's second DLC, and it sees you partnering up with Hondo, a space swashbuckler who you might remember if you watched the Clone Wars animated series. In keeping with the DLC's name, this seems to be a sort of classic pirate adventure that involves trudging across the galaxy in search of hidden treasure. As part of this update, players will also receive a nice little bonus in the form of some cosmetic rewards inspired by that Skeleton Crew show that absolutely nobody seems to have watched. The DLC is set to release on May 15th, and Ubisoft have also announced that Star Wars Outlaws will be releasing on the Switch 2 later this year in September. So if you're looking for a game to put that hardware to the test, this might be worth a look. Also, they just launched a demo for other platforms, so do check it out if you want to get your feet wet without diving in. Star Wars Not Your Speed? Well, keep your eyes on Star Overdrive. This is the next game from publisher Dear Villagers, who last year released the very well-received cozy adventure game Caravan Sandwich. This one is a more fast-paced offering, though. It sees you racing around an alien planet on a hoverboard that doubles as a jetpack and a laser sword. Hell yeah. And you've got an electric keyboard that can be used to move objects like that Magnesis ability in Breath of the Wild. Looks to be a nice balance of combat and puzzle solving while pulling off sick tricks along the way. This one's actually already released for the Switch on April 10th, and it received decent reviews, but now it's coming to all other platforms on the 19th of June. Hey, remember Among Us? Feels like forever ago that game took the world by storm, but it appears Inner Sloth isn't done with it yet because they're about to release it again. but this time in 3D. It's like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer goes 3D for the first time, except way less cursed. Not much to say here really, it's the same social deduction experience as the original game, only now with a first-person perspective. The release is likely in response to the positive reception that Among Us VR got, which was basically identical to this, so it's obviously a smart move for the studio to port it over for non-VR users. If you're keen to return for more emergency meetings, Among Us 3D releases on Steam on May 6th. The award-winning Lovecraftian fishing game Dredge is getting a sequel. Well, at least a spiritual sequel, sort of. Dreadmore is a Lovecraftian fishing game where you sell your fish and upgrade your boat to explore further into the ocean. See, I told you, it's basically a Dredge sequel. Main difference here is that you're playing in first person. There seems to be a bit more focus on maintaining your ship, and there's also guns, so I guess now you've actually got a chance to fight back. Not much is known about this one yet, no release date has been set, but it's the debut title for Poland-based DreamDock. Best of luck to them, they certainly have got a lot to live up to. Again, that's getting an actual sequel though, is the beloved kingdom management game Yes Your Grace. After 5 long years, the studio is releasing a follow-up in the form of Yes Your Grace Snowfall. It keeps to a similar gameplay structure revolving around resource management and decision-making, but seems to have really upped the presentation with a more cinematic look that complements its iconic pixel art style very well. Fans of the original will be happy to hear that this finally got a release date May 8th, so just around the corner really. It's rare that we shout out mobile games, but there's a couple of interesting announcements this month actually. The first one is What the Clash from developer What the Games. Haven't heard of these guys before, but having looked into them, they've actually released a number of games with What the in the title, such as What the Car, What the Bat, What the Golf. The next game has you playing as hands, like humans with hands for heads, and it involves you competing against another player in a whole bunch of mini games, from ping pong to driving races to snowboarding to honestly too many to list here. Looks like some wholesome, lighthearted fun, and it's releasing on Apple Arcade on the 1st of May. But it's not the only PvP game coming out that day. The other is Sonic Rumble, which is kind of like Sega's take on Fall Guys. It's a multiplayer party game where 32 players compete to survive a gauntlet of challenges until one remains. You very much know the drill at this point. It's already available here in Australia for some reason, but for all other territories, it releases on May 8th for iOS, Android, and PC. Sonic fans, I hope you enjoy this one. Only one delay announcement this week, and it's for the upcoming survival MMO June Awakening. This game was originally set to release on May 20th, but will now release a few weeks later on June 10th. Supposedly, this is in response to beta feedback. In their official statement, they had this to say, quote, "The feedback we've been collecting from beta testers has been invaluable in making sure we launch a quality game. We have a very active Discord going with our beta testers where our developers can interact directly with them to ensure we collaboratively make June Awakening a better game. Thanks to this process, we've concluded that with a bit more time to cook, we can act on a lot more of the feedback that we know is important to our beta testers," end quote. That's fair enough. The previews I saw for this one were pretty mixed actually, so I'm glad they're taking some extra time to tighten things up. There's also a persistent closed beta running right now, and you can sign up for it over on their website for a shot at access. Otherwise though, you're just gonna have to wait a little longer to make landfall on Arrakis. So what came out last week? We shouted out Tempopo in our Put This On Your Radar segment a couple of weeks back. It's from unpacking developer Witchbeam, but sadly there doesn't seem to be much buzz around its launch, with very few critic or player reviews at the time of writing. The reviews that do exist seem overall tepid. PC Gamer gave this one 65 and had this to say, quote, "Tempopo's rhythmic puzzling is undeniably great, but it's let down by a lack of mechanical pacing and an absence of Witchbeam's coveted storytelling," end quote. Games Hub felt very similar, giving it 3 out of 5 stars, but leaned a little more positively, saying, quote, "Tempopo is a game defined by its unique, well-designed musical puzzles and by how it tests you. While simple on the surface, it's an iceberg underneath, and it'll keep you coming back for more just to see how far it goes," end quote. Another game that didn't make too much of a splash was Gone 2, the sequel to the bloody VR game from developer Free Lives and published by Devolver Digital. Again, almost no critic reviews for this one, and very few player reviews, though those who have played it have nice things to say. Steam user Hotspot has clocked 4 hours and had this to say, quote, "There is a fart button in the main menu. 10 out of 10, end quote. Other reviewers do praise Gone 2 for actual things like visuals and smooth gameplay and optimization. Generally an improvement over the original in every way. It's pretty clear that enthusiasm for VR gaming has plateaued a lot over the years, but for those still rocking a headset and looking for some cathartic fun, this seems to be a pretty safe bet. A low-key release that you definitely don't want to miss though is the teleportation-driven platformer Bionic Bay. This one is from publisher Kepler Interactive, who have a phenomenal track record with games like Ultras and Pacific Drive. They really do know how to pick them, and Bionic Bay is no exception. It's sitting at a mighty 87 on OpenCritic. Well Played scored this one 10 out of 10, saying, quote, "Bionic Bay is one of those rare experiences that has such confidence in itself that it doesn't need to muddy the water with bloat and uncertainty. It is precisely what it is, and what it is excellent. Take a mystifying workplace accident, a rock-solid visual identity, and a hefty industrial soundscape, throw them together and serve on a bit of platforming mechanics that just refuses to quit," end quote. Jewel Shockers also gave this 10 out of 10, saying, quote, "Bionic Bay is a truly special platformer that is wildly creative and endlessly smart. Each new section of gameplay is a mini puzzle that utilizes the game's movement and powers extraordinarily intuitively, leading to continuous rewarding solutions that encourages players to think outside the box and bend the world's mechanics to their will. End quote. That is a very strong endorsement, to say the least. Fantastic result for the team. You love to see it. Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree is the 2.5D Metroidvania Souls-like blend that began its life as a Kickstarter a number of years ago, and it seems to have been met with a more conflicted reception, sitting at a 65% mix over on Steam. Most of the negative Steam reviews point to a shady mandatory end-user license agreement that allowed the developers to sell your data to a long list of companies, which was definitely bad, but thankfully that's since been amended. What's left paints quite a pretty picture, actually. While many recognize its shortcoming in terms of game balance and boss variety, it's also been showered in praise for its gorgeous visuals, weighty combat, and deep build craft. It's landed at a mighty 85 over on OpenCritic, with CGM Magazine scoring an 8 out of 10 and simply saying, quote, Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree is a Souls-like fans must play and could be a good option for fans to cut their teeth on if other titles seem too difficult, end quote. Lost Skies released into early access last week. That's a survival game that sees you exploring floating islands in the clouds with the help of your own personalized flying ship. It's done pretty well for itself, sitting at 72% mostly positive on Steam, many sharing the sentiment that the exploration, ship customization, and physics-enabled grapple hook make it a joy to play, but they do warn that the game is riddled with bugs at the moment. Steam user Nagmus gave it a thumbs down after nearly 30 hours of playtime, but remains hopeful for the future. Quote, I love it, I really do. It's all there. It just needs to, work. The grappling hook locomotion is addictive as hell. It's just so good, but the jank is just too much at the moment, especially when playing with friends, though I remain optimistic as I see the developers really talking to the community and acknowledging the issues, end quote. So what's coming out this week? Well, a fair amount actually. No huge AAA blockbusters, but plenty of nice AA and indie offerings to sink your teeth into. Headlining this week is Claire Obscure Expedition 33, releasing on April 24th. This is the JRPG-inspired fantasy epic with an absolutely stacked voice cast, including Charlie Cox, Andy Serkis, Ben Starr, Jen English, and many others. I personally am playing through this one at the moment, and I'll have a full review out for you after I get back from Japan, so if you'd like to know the minute that goes live, be sure to subscribe and ding that notification bell. All I will say for now, though, is that I'm very, very excited to talk about this video game. I'll leave it there. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves released April 24th as well. This is the first mainline entry in the series in over 26 years. It's a fighting game, very much akin to, your Street Fighters and what have you. Particularly so with this one, given the visual style they've gone for. You know what Street Fighter doesn't have, though? Real-life famous people as playable characters. The studio recently released a trailer showing off pro footballer Ronaldo and Swedish EDM DJ Salvatore Ganacci as actual fighters in this video game. So, yeah, if you've ever wanted to finish off your opponent with a football scissor kick, then now's your chance, I guess. Next up is the 100-line Last Defense Academy. Ed is particularly excited about this one. It's a visual novel game with turn-based tactics elements, social systems, relationship building, and multiple endings. It's apparently being created as a collaboration between two of the most prolific visual novel developers in the genre, responsible for the likes of Danganronpa and Zero Escape. They're known for all sorts of messed up scenarios and psychological twists, so if you're down for that, then I suspect you'll be well served here. It releases on April 24th for PC and Switch. Looking for something to fill that Command & Conquer-sized hole in your heart? Well, April 24th sees the release of Tempest Rising from publisher 3D Realms and Saber Interactive. It's an old-school inspired RTS with modern visuals. Not much more to say here about it, really. The gameplay kind of speaks for itself. Not a lot of RTS games coming out these days, so it's cool to see the studio keeping the dream alive. Actually, scratch that. There is something funny to say about this one. While this script was being written, the game was actually released on Steam accidentally, and rather than take it down, the developer just left it up. So there it is. Right now, you can go and play it immediately, enjoy yourself, and be sure to thank the intern who sent it live a week early. Also coming out on April 24th is Ghost Town. This is a single-player VR puzzle adventure game from the studio behind the very well-regarded VR puzzle game series The Room. You play as a ghost hunter in 1980s London, exploring haunted houses and city streets and using supernatural abilities to find her missing brother. It looks pretty cool, to be honest. Rare to see VR games these days, but this level of animation quality and graphical fidelity. It's launching for both MetaQuest 2 and 3, but it is planned to be hitting PSVR 2 and Steam VR later this year. April also sees two notable releases for PS5 owners. The first is Days Gone Remastered on April 25th, the underrated open world zombie game that's getting a visual uplift to bring it in line with Sony's recent offerings. It'll cost you $10 to upgrade if you own the PS4 version, so pick that up while you can. Days Gone wasn't the best thing that Sony put out last generation, but I happen to think it was pretty good overall. I liked its characters, I liked its world, and that zombie horde tech is truly something to behold. So if you're after yet another Sony-style experience and you haven't tried this one out yet, now's as good a time as any. Most importantly, with this one out the door, along with The Last of Us, Spider-Man, and even Horizon being remastered, surely Bloodborne is the next cab off the rank, right? Please tell me yes. The second PS5 release for this month is an Xbox game. Man, that's weird to say aloud. Forza Horizon 5 makes its way to the PlayStation some 4 years after its Xbox and PC release, and it closely follows the PS5 release of Indiana Jones last week. Really glad you Sony ponies get to play this one because honestly, it's fantastic. I strongly recommended this one back in the day, and I'm not even a racing guy. One weird thing about this release is that it has a paid early access period though, for a game that's been out for 4 years. Like, what are we doing here now? If you're a normal person willing to wait a few extra days though, it releases on April 29th. Enjoy yourself. Coming out for both PS5 and Xbox Series consoles later this month is Fragpunk, the tactical PvP shooter with crazy modifiers that makes every match feel like you're playing with cheats enabled. This one got a last minute console delay after releasing on PC a little while ago, but now the console releases are here. Austin reviewed this one and he recommended it for its tight gameplay and its solid hero kits, and also appreciated its playfulness in what is typically a highly competitive genre. It's free to play and it also releases on April 29th. Moroi is the debut title from a developer called Violent Sate, and it's a freaky looking top-down action RPG apparently inspired by Romanian folklore. To quote the Steam description, quote, Moroi is a grim dark fairy tale with an even darker sense of humor. Experience frantic combat, perplexing puzzles, and a twisting narrative anchored by a bizarre cast of characters. Can you break free from eternal madness? Question mark, end quote. There's a free demo available right now over on Steam, but if you're happy to wait, then it releases on April 30th. Finally, another interesting one is Skin Deep from Annapurna Interactive, who still are putting out games despite the whole company-wide resignation thing last year. This is an immersive sim from a solo developer where each run sees you attempt to save a ship full of cats from space pirates by any means necessary. It's packed with comedic systemic interplay like throwing soap and banana peels to make enemies fall over, pepper and dust will make them sneeze, and for some reason you can set hand sanitizer on fire. Sure. You also, for no particular reason, have no shoes, so you may be forced to pry glass out of your feet on occasion. It's the kind of absurdity that only a solo developer can pull off, and they seem to have done it here as Ed's been playing the demo for a while now and he loves it. If you'd like to get glass stuck in your feet as well, the demo is available right now over on Steam with the full release slated at the end of the month. No shortage of cool indies to try out this month, so here's another one. Put this on your radar.
Okay, quick recap. This is a game where music is illegal and you do crimes. You do crimes by performing the dead simple action of hitting 2 buttons and signing the music, which makes this girl who is you do any number of things, like for example, punching this guy right in the jaw.
This is Unbeatable. It's a narrative-led rhythm game that follows the story of a girl and her band on the run from police for the crime of playing music. The gameplay loop is comprised of 2 parts. One sees you running around town, meeting all manner of characters and building a set list. Then the other is playing that set list with simple 2-button inputs alongside a fully original soundtrack. No set release date for this one yet, but Austin's been jamming out to the free demo for a while now, and he says the game oozes style with visuals that pop off the screen and music that's boppy as hell. Likely to be up your alley if you're into stuff like Beat Saber or Guitar Hero. If you want to try the demo for yourself, you can find a link to it over on our Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and there's not a lot to cover here that we didn't go over last week. Epic Games are still giving away the charming adventure game Botanicula, as well as Firestone Online Idle RPG. PlayStation Plus still has the stuff they recently added to the game catalog for extra and premium subscribers. Notable ones are Hogwarts Legacy, Lost Records, Battlefield 1, and head-spinning puzzler Blueprints. Xbox Game Pass we also covered last week. A lot of great stuff there, including GTA 5, Dredge, Neon White, and don't forget Claire Obscure Expedition 33 launches day and date on Game Pass this week, and like I said, you're not going to want to miss that. Prime Gaming still has some decent offerings too, with Mafia 3 Definitive Edition, the digital board game Gloomhaven, as well as the highly praised Metroidvania Berserk Boy. But we didn't mention that on the 24th of April, they'll also be handing out Kraken Academy ! Via the Amazon Games app, along with a gold code for Thief Gold, the classic stealth game from 1998, bundled with 3 additional campaign missions. But yeah, that's really about it. It is the last week of the month though, so do expect things to pick up in this segment next week. Our feel-good story for the week is kind of a double-edged sword. See, the Oblivion Remaster is here, and it's good, and people love it. But there's one group of people who may not have been thrilled to hear about the arrival of an official Oblivion Remaster, and it's the mod team working on Skyblivion. If the name is at all unclear, this is an extremely ambitious mod project that looks to recreate Oblivion in Skyrim. And as is usually the case with these sorts of mod projects, the team is dozens of people strong and they've been working on it for literally years. Now, often what happens to projects like this when an official remaster or remake is announced is that the development team gets a cease and desist letter from the publisher asking them to stop development because they think they'll lose sales or something if a mod steals their remastering thunder. It's generally a pretty shitty thing to do since mods are targeting a very different type of consumer than a boxed product is, and the kind of person who is willing to go to the trouble of downloading a mod is probably also highly likely to pay for an official remaster anyway. Anyway, I digress. The point is, Bethesda didn't send the Sky Oblivion dev team a cease and desist, but they did send them something else. An Oblivion Remastered game key for every person on the dev team. They didn't issue an official statement on the matter, but this is clearly Bethesda's way of wishing the Sky Oblivion team well, and the mod team were clearly very happy about it, writing, quote, "As massive fans, we're beyond grateful for the generous gift of Oblivion Remastered keys for our entire modding team. This means so much to us. Thank you for everything, Bethesda," end quote. A nice, wholesome interaction between a mod team and a publisher. Take-Two will say it's fake. All right, ladies and gents, that's it from me. As you're watching this, I'm probably going to be sitting in a dark room playing Death Stranding 2, thinking to myself, why is everyone making fun of what I wore in this photo? It's literally just a white shirt and blue shorts. What the hell do you people want from me? To be fair, Kojima's kicks alone are about 10 times more stylish and probably 10 times more expensive than any piece of clothing I own. So I guess I'm just a victim of an impossible comparison. Help nurse my bruised fashion ego back to health by dropping this video a like, smashing the subscribe button if you haven't already, and ring-a-ding-ding that notification bell so you'll know when that Clear Obscure Expedition 33 review goes out and when the Death Stranding preview goes out. And did I mention that we interviewed Andy Serkis on the FPS podcast this week? Yes, the Andy Serkis himself. For now though, thanks as always for watching, and a big thanks to this week's sponsor, Manscaped. Can you grow a beard? If so, I am jealous. I tried once and everyone made fun of me. It's so bad that during Movember, people pay me to not participate, just so they can be spared the sight of me trying and failing. Still, I grow hair in other places, and whether it's a manly mane or unwanted undergrowth, Manscaped's all-new Beard and Balls bundle has got you covered. Up top, Manscaped's Beard Hedger takes all the hard work out of maintaining your whiskers. With 20 adjustable settings, the Beard Hedger lets you effortlessly shape your beard, from light spring stubble to a bold, well-defined style. Down below, Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 is the industry leader in below-the-waist maintenance. Featuring a dual-blade system with interchangeable foil and trimmer blades, the lawnmower will keep things feeling fresh and smooth even in the most sensitive of areas, since Manscaped's skin-safe technology is designed to minimize nicks and irritations. Both the Beard Hedger and the lawnmower sport excellent battery life, meaning they'll hold a charge for weeks depending on how often you use them. They're also waterproof, meaning you can use them in the shower and wash them really easily. Speaking of convenience, they also feature a built-in travel lock, making them super easy to bring along on a short or long vacation. Best of all, Manscaped is so confident that you will love their kit that they offer a no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee. Try the lawnmower and the Beard Hedger for 30 days, and if you do not like them for any reason at all, Manscaped will give you your money back. The Beard and Balls bundle is already fantastic value, but it gets even better because Manscaped are providing a special discount to viewers of this channel. Visit manscaped.com/skillup and use offer code SKILLUP for 20% off your order plus free shipping. That's manscaped.com/skillup and use offer code SKILLUP for 20% off plus free shipping. Thanks Manscaped for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.